Hi. I think you can tell by the other videos on this channel that I'm not usually the type of person to talk about a serious civic issue like this. But for the sake of this assignment, I have to put all my discomfort aside, and I'm going to speak about a civic issue that really concerns me. Human trafficking. First, we all need to be aware of what human trafficking is. According to the Canadian Centre to End Human Trafficking is the exploitation of a person for the profit and material gain of others. A more basic definition is when somebody is forced, tricked, or isolated, and then exploited for money, labor, or sex. In Canada, the two most common forms of human trafficking are sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Now, it is important to know that there are two main types of human trafficking. Sex trafficking, which is controlling, threatening, or manipulating someone into exchanging sexual services for money while the trafficker takes the earnings. And labor trafficking, controlling and exploiting a person for their work or service through force, threats, deception, violence, or illegal debt. Upper Canadian law states that no one can legally consent to their own exploitation, even if they initially agree to it. This is known as the consent law. Did you know that there are terms to differentiate kinds of human trafficking? Human smuggling always involves crossing an international border. This usually happens with the person's consent, and the person is free to go upon arrival. But the smuggled person can still become a trafficking victim during or after travel. Human trafficking can happen within a country or across borders. It completely lacks consent and involves ongoing control and exploitation for profit. Despite the general definition of human trafficking and human smuggling being horrifying enough, there are several different kinds of human trafficking, such as forced illegal activities, forcing victims to sell drugs, smuggle contraband, or steal them using crimes such as blackmail to prevent them from seeking help, forced begging, forcing a person to beg for money and surrender all earnings under threat of violence or abuse, organ trafficking, forcing organ donation, withholding promised payment for an organ, or removing organs without consent during medical care, forced marriage, making someone marry against their will, under pressure, or without free and full consent, forced surrogacy, coercing, deceiving, or forcing a person to give birth to a child on behalf of another individual or couple. I want to start off this section by saying anyone could be trafficked. And just because I'm putting a spotlight on some groups doesn't mean that I'm invalidating people's experiences or other victims who have been trafficked. These are just the groups that are more statistically likely to be trafficked. Out of homeless and runaway youth, 1 in 5 are victims. General trafficking rates range from 19 to 40% among this group because of the lack of safe housing. That only increases this group's vulnerability to being trafficked. The 2S LGBTQIA+ youth experience trafficking at a significantly higher rate than other populations due to the discrimination against them. Foster care and child welfare. Youth currently or that were previously in care experience elevated rates of trafficking. Abuse survivors. Childhood sexual abuse survivors experiencing homelessness face an exponentially high risk. Women and girls represent the vast majority of known victims. Indigenous women, girls, migrants, and newcomers are economically disadvantaged individuals who are at a disproportionately higher risk. And if you would like to know more about the crimes inflicted on Indigenous women and girls, I would like you to research the topic Red Dress Day. Now, to show you the scale of this horrific crime, I would like to show you more statistics. There are over 5,000 cases of human trafficking reported to the police. 93% of victims were women and girls. By age, 40% were 18 to 24, 24% were 25 to 34, and 22% were under 18. 82% of people accused of human trafficking were men and boys. I would also like to share with you a little bit about grooming. Grooming is a slow process that takes weeks or months, where the trafficker mimics a parental or romantic partner type relationship, building trust by meeting basic needs for the victim before exploiting their vulnerabilities. Some traffickers try to guilt their victims or shame them, or make fake debts or threats or blackmail to keep them trapped. There are many warning signs to watch out for: pulling away from friends and family, fast-moving, intense new relationships, limited personal freedom or control over schedule, nervous or scared behavior, sudden unexpected gifts or items that you know they can't afford, and a new or sudden increase in drugs and alcohol consumption. There's still hope. And of course, there's laws against human trafficking. By the Criminal Code of Canada, it prohibits all trafficking and exploitative conduct, and the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, Section 118 of the IRPA, bans cross-border trafficking. In the U.S., The Runaway and Homeless Youth Act provides base funding for local youth care systems. However, there's been a national strategy to stop trafficking. There's been a 5-pillar federal plan to empower victims, prevent the crime, protect groups at risk, prosecute traffickers, and strengthen partnerships. MIWG also helps to protect Indigenous women, protection for the victims. Temporary resident permits, or TRPs, are issued by the IRCC to secure immigration status for potential victims for up to 180 days, and it is renewable. TRPs are free, include a free exempt work permit, and grant access to healthcare benefits and trauma counseling. Victims are not required to testify against their traffickers to secure temporary or permanent residency status. I don't have a script in front of me right now because I'm going to be sharing my opinion. Just from everything that I've learned and gathered from researching for this, obviously I think human trafficking is disgusting. I think definitely there are ways that we're trying to fix it, and I know it is an issue that can't just be turned off overnight. Definitely it starts at the home sometimes, where people think that the only way out is through these gangs or through these grooming people that just want to traffic them, and that's why I believe that maybe sometimes parents should be investigated more if any claims have come up against them. But of course, even in people's families, there can be grooming present, so they might not know that what's happening to them is wrong. Community, we just need to pay attention more. Attention to all the warning signs that I've brought up. If someone is acting different to how they usually act, that could be a sign. Not that they're being human trafficked, that's the worst possible scenario, but just check in with them. Make sure everything's okay. That's what you can do as a person. But yeah, I don't believe there is any single answer to stop human trafficking. As long as there are these disgusting people in the world, there are still going to be people being trafficked. I think I've brought up a couple of good ideas of what we can do as a community to stop human trafficking. Yeah, those are my thoughts on human trafficking as a civic issue.